guys, welcome back to the 12 Days of Foundation Day 2. Yesterday was a bit of a doozy. If you missed it, I will link to it down below. I reviewed a mystery foundation. I didn't know what I was wearing and then revealed what it was throughout the day and kind of compared my thoughts on the foundation versus what it actually claims. But it was interesting. I'll leave it at that. Today it is all about the Too Faced Peach Perfect Matte Foundation. This has been so incredibly highly requested, so here it is, and I know I was super curious myself. I will have timestamps down below that guide you through the review, along with shade matches that I am in more popular foundations if you're trying to figure out what your shade might be. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure you've heard claims about this foundation 1,000 times over. I'm definitely not the first to get to this review, but this is the Too Faced Peach Perfect Comfort Matte Foundation. It's infused with peach and sweet fig cream. Retails for $45 Canadian, 36 American. The really nice thing about this is you're getting 1.6 fluid ounces in here. So that's about a foundation and a half. The average foundation has 1 fluid ounce. So that actually kind of makes this a good deal. I'm not going to say it's affordable. It's definitely a high-end foundation, but you're kind of paying a high-end price and not the highest end price for about a foundation and a half, which I really appreciate. It comes in this squeeze tube with a pump. One of the downers of this foundation is it only comes in 12 different shades, which is incredibly limited. I know Too Faced is working on expanding their shade range with the Born This Way, so hopefully it will be rolled out. I mean, I've said it before, I think that it should be rolled out initially because everybody's money is valuable and everybody wants to try new launches. It shouldn't just be limited. But anyways, I'm going to be wearing the shade Honey today, and I'm going to prime actually this half of my face using their primer as well, the Cooling Matte Skin Perfecting Primer. And this is not a first impression. I have worn these both a few times, kind of testing them out, and then today we will wear them throughout the day. So let's go ahead and put it on my face. I'm going to start with the primer and just put it on this half of my face. This comes with 1.35 fluid ounces in here, so again, a nice amount of product. And it's said to be cooling, which it definitely does feel cooling on the skin. It says it's supposed to mattify for 12 hours and last for 16 hours, interestingly enough. And it retails for 35 American, 40 Canadian. And again, comes in that kind of like similar packaging. It definitely has like somewhere in between a lotiony and silicone feel, and it definitely feels really good on the skin and gets a little bit tacky. But that being said, I really don't feel like I have a very strong reaction to primers. I always get so many requests and questions about primers, but if you watch my foundation reviews, when I'm reviewing them, I'm like, yeah, the prime side looks slightly better, or no better at all. Let me know how you feel about primers. I'm always testing them out, but I feel like I'm not getting crazy results, so I never really talk about them very much. Onto the foundation, I'm actually going to use a sponge today, which is very unlike me, but I find this is such like it's kind of like quite a matte formula, and I feel like sometimes when I use a brush, you can see the brush stroke, so I figured I would try the sponge today and just see what happens. Of course, that's going to affect coverage, and I'm not a huge sponge person, but this claims to have medium coverage, be good for all skin types, and have a matte finish. I wanted to ask you guys, I actually have a lot of the collection, but I know that there has been so many first impression videos, tutorials, etc. So let me know if you'd like to see me. I can just do like a chit chat, get ready with me trying on the product, something super casual, because I know you've heard the claims and heard everybody remark on the same things over and over again. So I would like to use it though, because, and I mean, I don't want to use it alone, I want to use it with you. So let me know how you'd like to see it. Would you like to see, I mean, not a first impression completely, I haven't tried some of this stuff, but let me know how you'd like to see it, or if you're like, please God, no. One thing I also want to say about this collection, I feel like I haven't heard anybody make this remark, is that this was the perfect opportunity to release a peach color corrector, because they're releasing complexion products, maybe it's in the works, but it just would have been the perfect time, and they could have put it in like a little mini peach container similar to the way they did the blushes and bronzers in this collection. It just makes complete sense. Here's the application with just the sponge. I used about a full pump, which actually it pumps out quite a bit, and it's quite a liquidy formula, but it does give a really nice medium coverage. But I am gonna use a brush on this side. Let's just see. So there's one side with the brush. It's just faster to me. The sponge can look more flawless sometimes. Maybe that's why people go for it all the time. And it is easy, but I don't know, wetting a sponge and just a whole thing. On to second pump, just here on my cheeks. If you have problem areas on your skin, like for me, my cheeks are the issue. I barely touch the foundation on like my chin, my nose, my forehead, because there's no issues there. So just build up foundations on your problem areas, or you can spot conceal too, because that way things don't get too heavy, especially if you have oily skin, because I find the more foundation I put on my face, the more likely it is to just get crazy oily. I've kind of changed my mind a little bit after doing that side by side. I like both the brush and the sponge with this foundation. I don't know why, but the first few times when I used it with a brush, I felt like blending it was a little bit difficult, but maybe over the primer, it just did a bit of a better job. But either way, I really like the way both sides look. And I will say that the primed side feels more matte than the unprimed side, if that makes sense. I definitely gave this foundation about 5-7 minutes to set down, because it definitely had a sheen to it. For such a matte foundation, it has a really liquidy formula. It's not moussey at all, which I really appreciate, making it easier to blend and just apply. And you know how I feel about moussey foundations. But what I will say is that it had quite a bit of a sheen, and then after I let it set, I can really feel that it has actually set on my skin. It has a little bit of a tight feeling, which I have no problem with at all. If you do have oily skin, it almost feels comfortable. It doesn't feel uncomfortable by any means, because I know my oils are going to start pushing through any minute now. I wanted to mention the coverage. I think that the coverage does look really good. It is a true medium. I think it's buildable, but I don't think you'd get to full, and I don't think you want to build it up to full. As I mentioned, just spot concealing if you have any issues that you're looking to cover more. And as for the actual shade match, I think it looks really good, but it is slightly maybe neutral. I wouldn't say cool toned or pink, but it definitely is a little more neutral. And I noticed that with my Too Faced Born This Way concealer as well. When I swatch it next to my other concealers, it doesn't, I don't want to say it has a gray undertone, because that sounds really bad. Maybe it's neutral, but it definitely has that similar feel to it. So as I mentioned, I would love to see some more shades in there just to better fit everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and put on the rest of my makeup, and we will chat about how it performs in photos, as it does claim right there on the front of the bottle that it is photo friendly. I have all of my makeup on now, and I kind of went to town with the peach thing. I was actually really excited to break out all of my old peach stuff. Everything I'm wearing will be listed down below, but this eye look, if you're curious, I used the Just Peachy Mattes palette, and I did a 3 looks, 1 palette video. I can remember what that was called, and I did a look similar to this, so I will link to it down below. But overall, I really like the way that my foundation looks. As I mentioned, it took a little bit of time to set, and I did powder it like I do any other foundation. But if you have a more dry skin type, I definitely don't think you would need to powder this, and maybe even normal skin, you may not want to powder as well, because it does set quite a bit on the skin. But it does take a couple minutes, because it is quite a liquidy formula. But for me, I absolutely love the way that this looks. It feels really good too. As for the photo test, it does list right there on the front of the bottle that it is photo friendly, so I'm super curious. In my lighting here with no other makeup on, just the foundation and no flash, I thought that it looked really good. It looks really natural on my skin. This is before it's set completely, so you can see that there's a little bit more shine to my skin than what there was when it actually had let it set. Then I turned off my ring light and took a photo, and I thought it looked good, but there definitely is a slight difference there. You can see there is a little bit of kind of cast, but not a ton. But then when I turned off all my lights, and keep in mind my room is basically completely dark at this point, and I'm taking a flash photo, there definitely is flashback. And it's not the worst flashback in the world, but it is there, and that is something to consider if you are considering this foundation, because it is saying that it's completely photo friendly. I don't know if my, what would you call it, like my surroundings are totally accurate of how it would perform, say out in the night at a party or an event and you're taking a flash photo, but I am in like a completely dark room with nothing else on my face. But that is something to know. But you can always get a sample of this foundation at Sephora and, you know, do your own flash photo test. So I'm gonna go ahead and go about my day, and I will check back with you in some natural light to see how it's holding up. So here we are in some natural light. I've had the foundation on for some time now, and I'm also wearing my, basically what I'm gonna call my check-in hoodie, because this is actually what I wear around my house, not an off-the-shoulder bodysuit, let's be real. So there's very little oil coming through on my skin, but I am gonna powder ever so slightly, just for fun. I think that it looks really good on my skin. It feels really good. It feels really matte and secure and locked into my skin. So far I'm incredibly happy with this. I think this may be a new favorite, but I will check back with you at the end of the day and give you my final thoughts. Another check-in and another shirt. It is the end of the day for me, and things look really good considering I've had this foundation on for almost 12 hours. I did have that mini kind of powder during the day, but otherwise super impressed. I mean, as I mentioned, this is not a first impression, so I knew that I loved this foundation. I'm gonna do just a little blot just to show you how it performs once you blot, because if it's a good foundation and when you blot things fall apart, then what's the point? I also ran a little bit of powder just through the center of my face, but things look amazing. This is definitely one of my favorite foundations that I have tried all year. I think it gives beautiful coverage, it wears beautifully, it really helps with oil control. I think that the primer actually does something which is very rare. It seemed to help with the staying power and the smoothness of my skin, along with a little bit of oil control, but both sides did hold up really well. I have worn this foundation with and without primer, and I think it works great. I really like the way that it feels on my skin. It just feels really secure. The only real downfalls for this foundation for me are the shade range. There definitely are not enough shades on either end of the spectrum. On top of that, the undertones are a little bit off, so this foundation I could use being a little bit more golden or a little bit more yellow undertoned. And then also I found in my flash photo test anyways that it didn't seem to be as photo friendly as they were claiming, but as I've said 100 times over, that's not a deal breaker for me. So I will definitely continue to wear this foundation. I really appreciate the fact that it has 1.6 fluid ounces in there, which is awesome. So if you love it, you'll end up getting a lot more wear out of it than the average foundation, and it just looks so good on the skin, and I'm so incredibly impressed with this. So let me know if you haven't tried this foundation. Also report back on what you think I should do with the rest of the Peaches collection. Do you want a first impression? How do you want to see it in action? Stay tuned. Tomorrow is day 3 and I will be testing out another foundation. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!